What if Pokemon abilities were never created? There's no doubt that the creation of Pokemon abilities changed the scene of Pokemon forever, both casually and competitively. There are a total of 266 abilities that have been created up to the Crown Tundra DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Some of these abilities are very useful, while some aren't so much. Some Pokemon have one ability, while others have two or even three. Some are common and some are rare, or in other words, hidden, aka hidden abilities. The real question is, how much do these Pokemon actually need their abilities to keep their viability? I'm going to try to cover a few abilities and Pokemon that I feel would see the biggest impact on this change. The first most prominent ability that comes to mind is Intimidate. Regardless of the competitive meta that you play, whether it be OU, VGC, or Draft League, you'll see a very strong presence of Intimidate Pokemon, the king of it being Landorus Therian form. Landorus is a part of the Gen 5 Genie trio, and since its debut has long been considered one of the most versatile, if not the most versatile Pokemon in the game. With its great typing and very balanced stat distribution, there was no surprise that this Pokemon quickly rose to the top of the metagame. It has access to a great stab move in Earthquake, and great spammable coverage in Stone Edge, Knockoff, and U-Turn. There's no doubt that this Pokemon was going to be an offensive menace. However, Intimidate isn't really an offensive ability. It actually lowers your opponent's attack stat whenever you switch in by one stage. This opened up Landorus to run sets with Stealth Rock and Defog and hold leftovers and even Rocky Helmet, and be a pretty consistent switch into the spammable close combats and Stone Edges that a lot of physical Pokemon run. It's also immune to Earthquake, making this Pokemon's typing and ability perfect for switching into physical attackers. There's no question that Intimidate opens up this Pokemon to a whole different way of functioning, but I don't think that this ability is what is actually making it broken. Let's take a look at two Pokemon that I think would hurt from losing Intimidate quite a bit, and they are Incineroar and Arcanine. This fiery feline and its canine friend aren't seen so much in the OU meta, but are some of the kings of VGC and are also two very consistent draft Pokemon. Once Incineroar was introduced, Arcanine's usage fell off a bit in most of the metas that they shared because of Incineroar's ability to use Fake Out, U-Turn, and Parting Shot. However, there is still a niche for Arcanine over Incineroar due to its better speed tier for faster Will-O-Wisp and its higher special attack stat. Unlike Landorus, these two Pokemon are actually weak to rock and ground type moves, and in Incineroar's case, it's also weak to fighting type moves. These three types tend to occupy most of the physical move pool, meaning that Intimidate can actually help tilt some of these calcs into the Fire Duo's favor, meaning they can actually live some of these hits when they need to. However, without Intimidate, these two Pokemon are very limited on the physical hits they can take, especially since they don't get any recovery. One thing they still have going for them is access to Will-O-Wisp, but this requires them to be faster than the attacker or be able to take a hit before landing the Will-O-Wisp. This raises an interesting question of, without their abilities, which one of these Pokemon would be better than the other? Would it be Arcanine because it's able to outspeed attackers and half their damage with Will-O-Wisp? Or would it still be Incineroar because of its access to Knockoff, U-Turn, and Parting Shot? Overall, I don't think there's any question that we would see a lot less of these two with the absence of Intimidate in their sets. Another group of abilities that can't go without being mentioned, a group of abilities that affect the Pokemon's final stats or damage output in some way. These abilities include Huge and Pure Power, Tough Claws, Adaptability, Protean, and Libero, Guts, Hustle, and Sheer Force. That's a pretty long list of abilities, but the concept is still the same for all of them. They all in some way, shape, or form make a Pokemon's moves do more damage as long as the requirements to some of the abilities are met. There's even a longer list of Pokemon that get these abilities, but we're only going to hit the main ones that I feel like are really important to hit. Starting with Huge Power and Pure Power, which are technically the same thing, they both just double your attack stat. The first mons that come to mind are the Megas that get them, and they're Mawile and Medicham. I think out of the two, Mawile definitely suffers the most and goes from being one of the most scary Megas to just kind of a middle of the tier Mega. Medicham is still very decent, even without Pure Power, just because Psychic Fighting is very hard to switch into, and at base 100 speed, it can still outspeed a majority of things. The next two things are the Bunny duo of Azumarill and Diggersby. These two Pokemon become almost unusable offensively without Huge Power. Their attack stats are just not high enough to be the threats they are, and with Huge Power gone, it affects the whole dynamic of the Pokemon and just changes it completely. I'm not going to go into all of these abilities for time's sake, but I do think I owe attention to Protean and Libero. These two abilities are hidden abilities of Greninja and Cinderace. The reason I've included these on the increased damage list is because they basically gives you a 1.5 boost to every single move that you could ever use on these Pokemon. And the reason for that is because they get a stab boost on everything, because Libero and Protean changes the type of the Pokemon to the type of the move that they're using. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on how these Pokemon perform without their abilities because I see them in action regularly during draft matches since their hidden abilities are almost always banned. These two Pokemon shaped the metas that they were in with their abilities. With Urshifu banned and OU, Cinderace is easily one of the scariest offensive presences again in the tier. Greninja has a multitude of sets that include Specs, Sash Lead, Hazard Settings, Scarf, Live Orb, Expert Belt, you name it, and Greninja can do it. And the one thing that makes both of these very scary is they always get stab U-turn. They're some of the fastest Pokemon in the tier, and they'll always be able to come in, pressure something out, and get a stab U-turn off of it. So the U-turn actually does a pretty good bit of damage. Taking away their hidden abilities does affect the Pokemon, but I don't think it affects the Pokemon to the point to where they don't function the same as they do with their abilities. The only real thing that happens is that their damage output decreases because you aren't getting the 1.5 boost on the moves that aren't stab, but the moves that are stab you still get a 1.5 boost on, like Hydro Pump or Surf for Greninja, Dark Pulse for Greninja, Pyro Ball for Cinderace, and those are all still really spammable moves. So in the long run, their ability to hit things just as hard as they were before isn't really taken away outside of having coverage for things like Ice Beam on Greninja, or the U-turn buff gets taken away, Sucker Punch, High Jump Kick for Cinderace, all of these different things. But these two Pokemon are some of the ones that I've mentioned that are still really, really good Pokemon without the access to their abilities, just because their stat distribution is really nice, they're really fast, they hit decently hard, and they're really great pivots and pressure and they are really great pivots that put pressure on your opponent's team almost every single time that they come in. So these two Pokemon, I feel like without abilities, would definitely be at the top of the tier if abilities were never created. But that is going to wrap it up for this video, guys. There's so many abilities out there that could change the game. There's so many abilities that don't really have any effect on the game. So if you want me to make a part 2 to this and you really enjoyed it, please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment down below, letting me know that you want me to make a part 2 to this. I thought this video was really fun, but I don't want it to get too terribly long. I think having this shorter video is better. So that is where I'm going to leave you guys. And if you like what you saw, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.